Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Shellcraft Supplies online jewelry making class. Today we are going to be making some cord jewelry. Here is an example of what we'll be doing today. So it's a very simple technique. We're going to be using some beads, some crystals, wooden beads, cowrie shells, and simple cord to make a three-piece necklace set. So we're going to have our necklace, a bracelet, and then I'm going to show you 3 different designs that you can use for your earrings. So for those of you who are interested in making jewelry, this is a very quick technique. It's an easy technique and it is quite inexpensive. The materials that we're going to be using can all be purchased here at Shellcraft Supplies, and they are quite inexpensive, so it is a very good beginner jewelry making technique that you can use, and from when you master it you can experiment with doing different techniques. So I'm just going to show you a very simple one today, and as I said, when you master the technique you will be able to, the sky will be the limits. You can do whatever you want to do with it. You can use different types of cord, you can use different types of beads, and you can just let your imagination fly. So let's go over what we'll be using today. Again, for those who are just coming in, we are at Shellcraft Supplies and we are doing a handmade jewelry class today, and we're going to be using cord to make some simple jewelry pieces. So I'll just rest these here. This is an example of what we'll be making, and we will go over the materials. I didn't introduce myself. My name is Vanessa Turnquest and I'm a jewelry designer, and I will be leading the class today. So what we'll be using today is our cord. This is a wax cord, and again it comes in different colors. We're going to be using a variety of beads. We're going to be using some wooden beads, and I like to bling things out, so we're going to be using some crystals. Again, you can use whatever bead that you want to use. You need to make sure though that whatever cord you have, the hole in your bead is big enough for the cord to go through. So that's important when you are choosing your beads, that the cord can actually feed the bead on. So that's important when you choose your beads. And again, the beads that you use would depend on the look that you want. So if you want a more casual look, you can use the wooden beads. I am going to be doing a combination of the wooden and the crystals just to give it a little flavor to it and to give it that little blinged out look. And we're going to be utilizing shells. Now this shell we're using is called a cowrie shell, and it was chosen, I chose it because it is a shell that has openings where I can easily put my findings that I need to connect my jewelry pieces. So when you're choosing your shell, make sure to choose a shell that you can easily connect your jewelry findings to, or if you want to, you can actually drill a hole in the shell that you choose. So remember that when you choose your shell. And if you look here, I'm going to show you how to do this, but I already have some of the shells with the jump ring already on it. So those are the beads I'll be using. So we have our cord, we have our wooden beads, our crystals, and our shell components. And again, the style, colors are all up to you. If you want a more casual look, you may want to stick with the wooden beads. If you want a more elegant look, you can use your crystals. It's all up to you. You can include shells. You can use whichever pendant that you desire. Those of you who may have beads at home that are just lying around, you can even use spare beads or beads that you have left over from a project to make this jewelry with, considering that it's only a few beads. So you can even use leftover beads in your stash that you may have left over from another project. Now those are the beads. We're going to be using some findings, and findings in jewelry making is simply the things that you use to connect the jewelry. So the first thing we're going to be using is a jump ring, and it's just a piece of wire in a circle, and at some point it has an opening, and I'll show you in a few minutes how to correctly open a jump ring. So you will need jump rings. We are going to be using cord ends. It looks like this, and we're going to be using this to finish off the ends of our cord. Of course, if you're making a bracelet or a necklace, you're going to need some kind of clasp to get it on. And today we will be using a lobster clasp. To make the earrings, you need your ear wire, and we're going to be using a fishhook earring wire. And finally, to help us put some components together, we're going to be using an eye pin. And an eye pin has the circle at the end, and then we have a head pin which has a flat surface to the end. So those are our findings. And then finally we need a few more tools and then we'll get started. We're going to need a scissors to cut our cord. You can use a measuring tape or you can use a ruler because you want to measure the length of your necklace. Make sure you have the right size, the length of your bracelet. And then our jewelry making tools. And again, all of these supplies can be purchased right here at Shellcraft Supplies. Most jewelry sets come with these three basic tools. So today we're going to be using a flush cutter or side cutters, and this is to cut wire. We're going to be using a round nose pliers, and this here is used to make loops. This is going to come in handy when we are making our little dangles here to come off the end of our shell. And we're going to be using this to make our earring. And then we're going to be using a chain nose or flat nose pliers, and this is kind of just to smush things into place. And we're going to actually be using this to finish off our necklace today. So these are the tools, and I have two of these. One is just a little wider than the other, but they're actually the same tool. So those are our tools, and before I begin, let me just welcome those who are joining again. We are at Shellcraft Creations, Shellcraft Supplies, and we are making a 3-piece jewelry set with a simple wax cord. So what I did was I pre-cut my strings, and I am going to be using this long one obviously for our necklace. This one here, a bracelet for an average size woman is about 7 inches or 7.5. Of course you want to add a few extra inches just for manipulation, and of course as you work with it you may need to cut some off, so always add a little extra when you're making your bracelet or your necklace, and then at the end you can adjust. It's always better to have more and then cut off rather than have less, and then you have to start your project all over again. And then this little piece here is going to be used to show you how to make an earring a little later on. And like I said before, Shellcraft Supplies has these cords, and they have them in a variety of colors. I just chose this color because I like the neutral or the natural look, but they have them in a variety of colors. I'm seeing some pink, some green, some tan, and some other colors which I can't see, but they have them in every color. And like I said, they're very economical. As you can see, they're only 50 cents a yard, so imagine how many necklaces or bracelets that you can make out of this particular cord. Alright, so let's start with the necklace, and this is the finished piece that we're going for here. And of course this is a design that I came up with. You can do whatever you desire. You can do it with just the wooden beads. You can add the shell if you want. You can leave it without the crystals. You could add more crystals. You could add more shells. The design is all up to you. Again, this is just something that I came up with, but you're free to do whatever design you want. And again, all of the beads that you would need, definitely all the shells that you would need, you can find right here. So I will show you now how to prep the shell. So most of these are already prepped, but I will just quickly show you how I turned this cowrie shell into a pendant that I could use to hang from my bracelet or my necklace or my earring. So for this, you're going to need your shell, and you're going to need your flat nose plier as well as a jump ring. So when you're using your jump ring, you're going to look for the piece that has the opening to the top. And she's holding the camera very close because that's fine. The tools we're using or the findings we use are very tiny, so just to make sure you can get a good look at what I'm doing. Now I'm going to use my finger for this, but if you have 2 pliers, you can actually use 2. And the key to opening a jump ring is that you pull one side away from you and you pull one side towards you. That is the correct way to open a jump ring. If you pull it open this way, you kind of destroy the jump ring and it's going to be difficult to close. So the key is to take one side, take it away from you, and bring the other side towards you. Again, I said I chose this shell, the cowrie shell, because it has a little opening where I can quickly just slide that in. And once I close this, I have a pendant. So you're going to do the opposite to close this. So I'm going to push them back in the opposite direction, and you can go until you hear a little click, or you can see that both of the sides are back together. Now, because my design calls for a little drop piece down here, I'm going to add one down here as well. So if you wanted to, this in itself could be a simple design. You could stop right here if you wanted to, close the ends, and you could just have a simple shell design. So that there is a project right there. But because we want to get a little fancy, we are going to add a few gems to the bottom. So that is how you add your jump ring onto your shell. And I am going to use this one that I've already had prepped. And all I did was put a jump ring to the top and to the bottom. The reason I have two is because the first one is to thread through my cord, and the second one is because I want to have some dangles coming down here, and I'm going to show you how to make the dangles right now. It's very simple, and I will show you that now. So for the dangle, you're going to need what we call a head pin, and these are used for making earrings, and you're going to need the bead that you're using. And for this, I'm going to be using the crystal bead just to give it a little flare. You're going to feed your bead onto your head pin, and you're going to cut to about a 1/4 inch. When you're cutting wire, you always want to make sure that you are protecting yourself from the wire cutting and going all over the place. So if you notice, when I cut, I held on to this piece so that way I have control over where this goes. And if you want to, you can actually wear protective goggles when you're cutting or dealing with wire. And of course, again, that is sold here. The next thing I'm going to do is take my round nose plier, and I am going to create a loop. I am going to, if you look at how my hand is twisted, I twist it to the side. I'm going to bring my round nose pliers right to the edge, flush to the edge of my head pin, and I'm just going to twist it around. And I just locked that bead into place, and I just created, a loop. So here is how my loop looks. And for our design today, I just made a cluster of 3 loops. So you're going to do that 3 times. So I'll do it 2 more times so you can see. And you will need your head pins. And the difference between the head pin again and the eye pin is that the eye pin has the circle to the bottom. So I'm just going to do this quickly so that I can finish off my pendant, and then we can get started on the necklace. Cut my wire down to about a 1/4 inch, bringing it flush, and I am going to just create my loop. And here's my second one.
Made in Bahamas is joining us. She says, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Made in Bahamas. Welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Donna Lee says, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Donna Lee.
Dale, Lynette, Patricia.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us.
And Juanita.
And those of you who are joining us and you have these supplies at home, I hope you have gotten them out and you are joining us. You're working along with us. If not, please take note of what you need so you can come on down after the class and purchase what you need so that you can create this necklace for yourself. Alright, so my shell is prepped, and now I'm going to add my beads on. So I'm going to put this to the bottom of the shell, and I am going to correctly open my jump ring, pushing one side toward me, one away from me, and it's simple as sliding on my jewels. So 1, 2, 3. Again, this is the design that I came up with. If you want, you could put 5. You could put as many as you want. If you wanted to, you could switch the colors out and use different colors. Independence is coming up. You may want to use aqua, black, and gold to make your piece. And now I'm going to close this back, and our pendant is complete. So this is what we're going to use as our pendant on our chain. Alright, so I have my pre-cut cord, and I'm just going to thread that on. And that is the first part of our necklace. Again, this is super simple, super easy. Once you have the technique down pat, you can do so many things with this particular design. Again, if you look at all the components we're using, each one of these could be a different design. So I showed you how it would look just with the shell. Here it is now with the shell and the crystals. This alone could be a design, and this could stand alone. But we're going to add a little bit more to this. We're going to add the wooden beads. And for that, that's just a matter of threading the beads onto the side. So I'm going to put one on that side, and I'm going to put one on the other side. If this happens, like you see, this is kind of frayed and difficult to get in, it's always good to have cut extra cord. And I'm going to cut this kind of at a 45-degree angle. And if you see here, I made this little sharp point, and that is going to help me to thread this on much easier. So if that ever happens with your cord, you have a frayed piece, just cut that piece off and work with the piece that you cut. And of course, that's why you always have a little extra. Now I could leave this here if I wanted to, but I'm going to do something to keep it in place, but it's also a design element. I am going to put a knot to keep this bead in place. So simply, just like tying a knot, I'm going to tie, but before I knot it, I'm going to push this knot all the way down to right where the bead is. And what that's going to do is just going to add a little interest to the necklace, as well as it's going to serve to keep that in place. So that's my first knot, and now I'm going to do it on the other side. And again, when you're cutting your cord, you can make the necklace as long as you want. It could be a choker if you want. I need to make sure that this knot is going to be as close to the bead as possible. So you can see how I'm forcing the knot down, and it is now in place. So what that did just now was add another decorative element to my necklace, as well as these are not going to be swinging all over the place on my necklace. It's going to stay in place. Now when I did that, I wanted to add something else. So if you look at our finished piece, I added another 2 beads on the side, and this time I let them just be free on the cord. So let's add 2 more wooden beads. Again, the bead choice is up to you. The color palette is up to you. It's whatever you want. This is just what I went with. And our design is completed. If you wanted to, you could add another shell. You could add some more of these charms. You could bead this whole thing up with wooden beads. It's up to you. I just wanted something simple, so I stopped the design right here, and once we have come to this part, we are just about finished. And the same technique that we used to finish this off is the same one we're going to use for the bracelet and one of the earrings that we're going to do. Like I said, is a very easy technique. It's versatile, so you could do so much with it. So the last step to this necklace is finishing off the necklace, and all we do for that is add the cord ends. Now again, at this point, you may want to test it to see how long you want it. If you want it very long, you can let it stay. If you want it to become a choker, you can bring it up. It's up to you. At this point now, you can just cut your length. I am going to keep it pretty long, but I am going to cut to make sure that both of my ends are even. So I'm going to leave it like that.
Guys, make sure to share the video.
Oh yes, because
Share
someone
the
is
video.
going to be getting this set, eh?
Yes.
At the end of the video. And it doesn't come with one earring, it comes with 3 different earrings. And again, you can wear the components together or you can wear them apart.
Miss Juanita asks if you can burn the ends as well.
You can possibly. I've never tried it. When I use the cord ends, which we're about to use now, that is usually secure enough for me, so I've never had to burn the ends. Before you do that, I would test it out on a piece before you make your necklace and then realize that it doesn't look too well and then you want to start over again. So I would do that on a scrap piece before I actually do that on my necklace. But when you use these cord ends, it gives your piece a finished look, and I've never had the need to burn the ends. But you can try it out and see how it goes. But again, like I said, I would suggest you do that on a scrap piece rather than on your actual necklace.
Miss Siobhan, you can purchase all your craft pieces here at Shellcraft Supplies.
Again, this is very inexpensive. It may look like a lot of stuff, but this is a very easy technique. And like I said earlier, the sky is the limit. The shells, everything that you see here has been taken off of the shelf in the store, so you can find everything you need right here at Shellcraft Supplies. And if need be, you can let me know if you need me to go over the supplies. So let's finish off. Any more questions before we finish off?
You guys can ask questions if you'd like.
And welcome and hello to all those who have joined us. Okay, last part, and this part here is so easy, it's unbelievable, but we shall go through the last part, finishing off your necklace so that you can wear it. Now we're gonna have to go up close for this, so we're gonna use this part that's called a cord end. Is that focus?
It's focusing. Yeah.
Right, and it has it's kind of like 2 flaps that are up. And your job right now is to put the cord in there and to close the flaps on the cord. And how to do that is you do it one at a time. Now let me just switch my positioning so that I can hope it's still in the camera. All
yes,
right.
Miss Wells, we do ship to the Family Islands.
Yes, Family Island viewers, everything is available to you as well. And this particular necklace would look nice too with maybe a sea glass pendant. Alright, so I pushed in the first side, and you may not see it, but I am putting a lot of tension on this flat nose pliers because I want that to stay in place. So that's the first side. I am going to bring the second side over, and again I'm putting a lot of pressure on this. And my last step, what I usually do is bring the plier together and push them together to make sure it's a neat finish. So if you look at this carefully, your cord has a neat finish. And again, it's going to take some practice to get it neat, but the more practice you do with it, you'll get it down pack in no time. So that's my first side. All I do is the same thing with the second side. So I'll get another cord end, and if you notice, I'm using all gold findings. Usually if you wire braid is the jump ring, some tend to open. This one is, sorry, let me read the question. Someone is asking, Juanita Burrows Delaney is asking what wire grade is the jump ring. Some tend to open. The package, of course, didn't have any label on it. From what I'm feeling, this is probably an 18 gauge. This is really heavy. This is between an 18 gauge or 20 gauge. I'm leaning more toward 20 because of how thick it is. But that's a good question because you don't want your necklace to fall apart. But this one is a pretty high gauge, not high, low gauge. So like I said, it's between 18 or 20 gauge. And of course, those of you who are experienced jewelry makers, you know that you can make your own jump rings with wire. And I think Shellcraft Supplies will be offering some more jewelry classes in the near future, so you can look out for those. And those of you who want to perfect your craft or learn more, you can definitely be in attendance so you can find out some more techniques for your jewelry making. So I'm going to finish off my second side. Same steps. I'm going to push one side in, and as long as I've been doing this, as you can see, it slips out of your hand sometimes. I'm going to push one side in, again, a lot of pressure, and then I'm going to turn this around and twist the other side. And here is my second piece. If you want to, you can kind of tug on this to make sure it won't fall off. You don't want to make a piece, especially if you're giving it to someone or selling it and then their necklace falls apart. So make sure that it is nice and tight. And here are our two ends with the crimp wire on it. Now you want to be sure that you crimp them as neat as possible, because you don't want the fray pieces coming out. And the lady who asked about the fray pieces, usually this here catches the frays, and that's why I never bothered with burning or doing anything with the ends, because the cord ends actually close it. I see someone ask, does it hook into the cord? It's not really hooked into the cord. If you look, well, I'm going to do this a few times more for the bracelet, but it actually has a place for you to rest the cord in. I'll just show this for demonstration, and all you kind of do is wrap the ends around the cord. I'm going to do this again when I do the bracelet, so you'll see an example of this again. Now we're just about finished. We're not quite finished yet, because now we need to add something to these cord ends so that we can actually put the necklace on. This isn't going to clasp. So again, this is where the jump ring comes in. I'm going to use look for my opening. I'm going to use sometimes I use my finger, sometimes I use the other flat nose plier. And we are going to add our ends. So for this side here, on the right side, I'm going to add a jump ring, and I'm going to add a lobster claw clasp. So all I did was a jump ring and a clasp, and then I'm going to close that up. And this side is now finished. And one thing you need to do before you add any clasp, I checked these last night, but always check it to make sure that it opens and closes, because sometimes in your pocket you get one that's stuck and you don't want to put together a necklace and realize that your clasp is not working. So always test that out. So here is the one finished side. And for the other side, basically all we need is something to put the clasp on. We're not going to use this. We're simply going to use another jump ring. And we're going to open this up. Remember, you pull toward one part towards you, one part away. And we're going to slide this in. And this is going to be the piece that we're going to hook the clasp onto. So basically our necklace is done. So when you put your clasp into the jump ring, you are finished. So here's our necklace, and here's the finished piece at the end. And basically, once you follow those same steps, you can do your bracelet. The only difference is, right at this time, the length. So obviously you won't do the same length for your bracelet. You'll do a shorter length, and that is why we have I have the measuring tape, or you could use a ruler if you want to. If you don't know the measurement of your hand, you can use a measuring tape and you can measure and see how much of this cord you need to cut. And then of course, remember, always do a little extra so that you have space to work with it, and then you can cut at the end before you add your cords. So I've already prepped a bracelet. So here's the bracelet that I've prepped with the shell, the little dangles, and the wooden beads. For the bracelet, I decided not to add this extra one here. So I changed the design just a little bit. Again, because I'm using the same colors and the same beads, it coordinates, so it doesn't have to exactly be like the necklace. So I've gotten it to the point where all I need to do is add the clasp, and I'll show you that again, especially for the person who was asking about the adding the cords to the end. You're going to need your cord ends, and before I do that, again, measure to make sure it is the size you want. Now my wrist is small, so I'll make it a little bigger for whoever is going to win this bracelet. I won't make it that small for them. But before you cut, make sure that your ends are even. So let me do that first. And I'll just cut a little bit off. You don't want it too big, but I don't want it too small either. And I probably went small again for my neck bracelet. The good thing is, if it's too small, you can always add an extender to your bracelet and it will still fit. So I'm going to use my cord end, and I'm going to finish this off. And it's the same technique that I use for the necklace, with making the charm, adding the dangles. That would have been earlier in the video, and then I added the 2 wooden beads, and I put the knot because I wanted them to keep in place, especially since it's going to be on my hand. I want it to stay in place. So all I need to do now is finish this off and my bracelet will be ready. So again, get your cord ends, and let me do it this way, and you're going to close them up. So you're going to push one side in. Again, you're going to put a lot of pressure to make sure it is in, and then you're going to push the other side in and make sure that it is nice and tight. A lot of pressure, and one side is complete. And the more you practice with this, the quicker you will get. You can make hundreds of bracelets in no time. Any questions there? I see someone put, good idea to use up my crystals. Definitely, because it's only a few beads that you have, you don't need a whole string of beads to do this. If you have something left over from something you were making already, this is the perfect project for that, because you only need a few beads.
Don't forget to share the page, guys. Share the live. Let your friends in on this, session. Maybe it could inspire somebody else.
So I'm adding my cord end on the other side. Again, adding lots of pressure. And these 2 ends are complete. All I need to do now is add my clasp, and it's going to be similar to what we did earlier. So I will need 2 jump rings, and I will need my lobster clasp. So this bracelet is just about done. Again, like I said, this is a very quick, easy technique, but there's so many things that you can do with it once you know how to do it. So I just added my jump ring again with my lobster claw, and I will close that up. And again, all of the supplies that you need for this project you can find right here at Shellcraft Supplies. So come on down after the video is completed and come and get your items. So that is the first side, and the next side I just need to add my last jump ring. Again, I'm going to pull one side away from me and one toward, which is the correct way to open your jump ring. And I'm going to add that to my end cord on the other side. Thank you, Siobhan Major. Just a simple design. Again, the sky is the limit with what you can do with this. Thank you, Rayshan. I hope I'm pronouncing it right. Rayshan Minus. And this here is your finished bracelet. So basically it's like a mini necklace. So the techniques are the same. So here's our finished necklace. Here's our finished bracelets. Oh, let me put it on this side here. Necklace, bracelet. Because the design was so simple and so easy, I decided to show you 3 different options for earrings. So I'm going to go from simple to more, I wouldn't say complicated, but a little more, I guess, fancy. So the first earring design is a simple cowrie shell. When you are making your earrings to match your pieces, all you need is something to coordinate with the piece. So I could have played with the shell, I could have played with the bead, I could have played with the cord. Okay, someone is asking, is the jewelry tray available for sale as well? This is actually a serving tray that I got from home, and I just put a bead mat on the tray. Now, thanks for mentioning that. I've used a bead mat because you know when you're using beads, things roll all over the place. If you notice, when I put something in place, it stays. And I reinforced with this tray. This particular tray is my tray from home with a bead mat on it, but they do have something called a sticky bead mat, and I did purchase one of these from here, and I also use this. What it does is, especially when you're using, well, most beads are round, they roll all over the place. For this particular class, I just put these into these little trays. But this bead mat here is kind of like a silicone one, and it keeps all of your beads in place. And what I didn't show you, which you can also purchase, is a bead mat or board design. This here wasn't really necessary for this particular project, but say you had an elaborate design in your head, you can use this, and it has grooves on it, and what you do is you play with your design until you get the design that you want. So, and they have bigger ones. So if, say, you wanted to sit down and put your design together, I kind of did this in my head, but you could use a bead board and you could sit down and play with the design you want and come up with what you want to do. I actually played around with this last night with adding extra shells. As you can see, I'm coming up, if I continue with this is a whole new design with these same 3 shells. Again, like I said, the sky is the limit. They come in 2 sizes. So you have this size here. This is a 6.5 inches by 9 inch one. And then this one here, which is, I don't see the size on it, but it's bigger. And this one here is good for necklace designs. And it has these grooves in it, so you can keep your beads here while you're working. So say you have a bead idea or a necklace idea, and you know you want to use pink, gold, and something else. You can put all your beads here just so you can see what you have, and then just play with this. And then when you have the design that you want, you can go ahead and string it. So the bead boards, like I said, what I have here is just a simple bead mat, and this is just a tray I had at home just to keep everything in place. And because I was traveling with the items, I wanted to make sure everything was safe until I got here to do the class. Alright, so let's get back to the earring. So for the earring, I'm going to show you 3 designs, like I said, from simple to more elaborate. So the first one is a simple shell. And again, when you're making earrings and jewelry, there are some people who like very simple, and there are some people who like more elaborate. So depending on who you're making it for, they may just want a simple shell. Then I looked at the shell and I said, okay, we could jazz up the shell and just add some beads to it. So this particular one is a shell, but I added a wooden bead and a crystal to it just to give the shell a little bit more. And then there are some people who like length. The tassel earrings are in, so I used a quick design to do something like this, where I have the shell, the crystals, and I have the cord, which if you look at it, I did the exact same thing I did with the bracelet. The only difference now with your earring is instead of adding a cord, sorry, not a cord, a clasp, you'll be using an airing wire. Air wire, sorry. And this here is called a fish hook air wire. And here at Shellcraft Supplies, they have a set actually with all of these components in it. So you can get the whole set at one time. Okay, so quickly, if you notice, I made only one of each airing. So I am going to quickly show you. I don't know how our time is going. Okay, we have time. I'm going to show you how to make each of these airings. So I made one, and I'll finish off the pair with you. Again, I have some of these already prepped. Very important when you're making your airings, you want them to kind of match. So make sure the airing that you choose matches the size, because the cowrie shells, the bag is going to come with lots of different sizes. So I need to find one that matches, and that's a pretty good match, so I'm going to do that. I have already put the jump ring on it. This part is super easy, so it won't take long at all. And once you have your air wire, you look for the part where it opens. Use your flat nose plier, and you're just going to pull that towards you. And when you pull that towards you, you just slide on your shell. And it's simple as closing it and putting it back in place. And as simple as that, airing number one is finished. So this is our first pair of airings. And again, this is for persons who don't like too many fussy things. They just want something simple. Airing number one is complete. All right, the next airing, which is still simple, but it is a little longer and it has a little extra to it. I need my bottom component, which is right here. Again, make sure your shells match up in size. And this time I am going to need a wooden bead, and I'm going to need a crystal. Now that is where the eye pin is going to come in. If you remember, when I made the dangles for this airing, I used what we call a head pin. It has a flat base. This particular one, because I want to attach this to something else, I need to use the eye pin. And it's the one with the circle at the end, because I need to attach this when this is done to this. When you use the head pin, you're using it as a finish piece. That means nothing is going to be attached to it. So for this, all I did was take the eye pin, I put on the wooden bead, and I put on the crystal bead. And the same way that I did the dangles for the necklace, I'm going to finish this off. I'm going to cut off about until I have about a 1/4 inch left. Again, I'm being careful to make sure the wire doesn't fly all over the place. And then I'm going to use my round nose pliers, and I'm going to put this back on, and I'm going to make a loop. Hold it flush against, and I'm going to bring it around. And it will look like this. And I'm going to attach this to the airing that I already have, the piece that I already have. Now if you look here, this hole for this particular wooden bead is covering my base. So I'm going to actually do this again with another piece, because I don't want my airing to fall apart. And I may actually choose another wooden bead with a smaller opening, because I don't want the airing to fall apart when someone puts it on. So I'm going to look for a wooden bead that has a smaller hole. Let's try this one out. And I'm going to test it this time. You see, this time it doesn't go through, so this one is going to be fine. And then we'll do that process over again. So what's going to happen actually is you'll get to see that again. So I will cut, making sure that the wire doesn't go all over the place, because you don't want that to get in your eye. Could I recommend a good cutting pliers? I really don't know what brand this is that I am using. I've had this tool, you notice my tool set has this zebra. I've had this tool set for years. The tools that are sold here are the Beadsmith brand, and that is an excellent brand, so that would be good for you to use. This particular kit I had, like I said, I had this for years, so I am not sure what brand this is, but the Beadsmith or the Bead-A-Lawn tools that are sold here are excellent tools. So if you purchase your tools from here, that should be good to suffice you. Alright, so this is my component. Hopefully that answers Juanita's question. I see Tennille Ryan is joining us, and thank you, Tennille. Alright, let's continue. So we're going to add our component to our shell. And I think I'm going to add it from this way. So I'm going to open up my jump ring, and I'm just going to attach the piece that I added to embellish it. And then I'm going to close my jump ring back. And the earring is just about done. So now it took me from just a simple shell to shell with the beads, and again it coordinates with my necklace, and the only thing left for me to do with this now is to add an air wire. I want the set of these, and like I said earlier, the $14.99 one. These are sold, all of these components that I'm working with are actually sold here at Shellcraft Supplies, and it comes in a kit. So all of these things that you see me working with, instead of you having to buy packet after packet, you can just purchase this kit, and it comes with some of the materials that we're using. And I am using gold findings today, but the findings come in different colors. So this one here is like a, I don't know, this is a pewter color, I guess. And then they come in silver. So say you were using a different color cord and you thought that this color went with it better, you can go ahead and use these findings.
Miss Donnelly says, your teaching is admirable.
Oh, thank you so much, Miss Donnelly. Thank you very much. Please look out for more of the classes. Shellcraft Supplies will be offering more classes. Ooh. Muy buenos, pero de major camera. Okay, gracias. Okay, we have a comment in Spanish. I really don't understand it. I see camera, okay, and I see gracias. Gracias is thank you. So de nada, that's the only part I understand. Major camera. Alright, and again, thank you to everybody who is joining us. And it seems as if most persons are enjoying the class. Thank you for joining us, and thank you for following along. Again, when we're done, you can come on down and purchase all of your supplies, and you can get started on this project, or you can go and just stash it home and you can try it out at home. So earring number 2 is finished, and the last earring is for those who really like to have long earrings, is this particular one. And I brought in the cord again, a shell, and then the crystal dangles. So I will show you how to make this one, and then our project for today will be complete. Thank you to Made in Bahamas, who is loving the earrings. She loves number 2. And thank you so much for all of your comments. And let's get on with the last earring design. For this earring design, we're going to need another piece of cord. And for this one, it's going to be a very short cord. Now, of course, this is the size that I came up with. If you want your earring a little longer, you can go ahead and cut it longer. If you want it shorter, you can make it shorter. It's up to you. So this is the piece that we're going to be using. So again, you want to match up your shell so that it's kind of the same size, because with earrings you want them to match. Again, I already had this shell prepped with a jump ring. So I'm going to slide that on. Again, this could be your earring by itself. You don't have to add the crystals if you don't want to add the crystals, but we have to match this, so we need to do our crystals. So those of you who missed when I put the crystals together, you're going to see that again because I need to do another 3. And for this, I'm going to be using my head pin, and this is the one with the flat base. So this is how our head pin looks. And for this, I'm going to need 3 more crystals. Again, you can use whatever color you want, you can use whatever style you want, and you can change up the colors. I kept all the same. Again, for Independence, which is coming up, you may want to use an aqua, a black, a gold. It's up to you. So I'm going to slide my bead onto my head pin. If I can find the hole. And then I'm going to cut and make my loop. When you cut, you're going to make sure that you have the wire that you're holding so that it doesn't fly all over the place. And then you're going to create your loop. You're going to put your round nose plier to the flush to the edge of your wire, and you're just going to make your loop. And here is how it looks. And you're going to do that 2 more times. Thank you. To get your dangles. So I'm going to cut about a 1/4 inch. Again, safety is important, and you can always, if you don't want to hold the wire all the time, you can just get a pair of goggles and use that. Anytime you're working with wire, safety is important because you don't want a piece of wire flying around and getting in your eye. So here's my next one. And then I need 1 more, and our last earring will be just about done. So again, you're going to bead your crystal onto your head pin. You're going to cut, and you're going to make sure the wire doesn't fly all over the place. You get rid of the excess wire, and you can create your loop. And here is how it looks. So now that I have 3 of those, again, I decided to use 3 from my cluster. You can use whatever number you want. And the last step is to add your crystals onto your jump ring. You're going to look for the part that opens, and again, you're going to pull one side towards you and one side away from you. And for this, before I thread on my crystals, I'm gonna have to actually attach this to my shell because I did not have this one prepped already in the shell. So you'll get to see how I created the pendant again. So in the cowrie shell, it has some openings. You're going to go to the openings, and you see how easily that just slipped in there. I'll put this back on. And before I close this up, I'm going to add my crystals on. And then I'm going to close this back up. And when my jump ring comes back together, my piece for my earring is completed. And it looks like this. So all that's left is to add this to the earring again, and this can be added later. We're going to finish off our, and again here at Shellcraft Supplies, you can purchase all of your cowrie shells, and the bag comes with quite a bit in it, so you can imagine the amount of earrings or necklaces or bracelets you can make with just 1 pack. And again, like I said, I chose this particular shell because it has spaces for me to put the jump rings in, and I also used a pretty wide jump ring to make sure it could fit. But there are so many shells in store, you may find a shell that you would like to see on your bracelet. Again, if it doesn't have any hole in it, you can actually drill a hole in it and still use the shell. But just to avoid all of that, I decided to use this particular shell. So as you look here, we're going to finish off this bracelet, this earring, the same way that we finished off the necklace. So we're going to use our cord ends again. So let me rest this down and get 2 cord ends again. And then we will just about be done. So I'm going to finish off my cord ends. This is fraying a little bit, so I need to make sure to get all of that in because I don't want that showing. And I am going to, let me make sure I'm in the camera. I am going to close this off by resting my cord in, and I'm going to close one flap at a time. And you have to make sure you get a good hold of it. Again, a lot of pressure I'm adding to make sure it's closed good. And then I'm going to do the other side. And you want to do it as neatly as possible. And first end finished. And the reason why I'm finishing off the ends before sliding this on is because this jump ring can go straight over it. So it doesn't matter whether I add it, whether I add it now or later. Thank you to everyone who is loving the earrings. I really enjoy your teaching. I could watch you all day. Thank you so much, Made in Bahamas. We have some other jewelry classes coming up, so stay tuned for those. You won't want to miss it, and you can add to your technique. Alright, so I'm going to finish off this next piece. Same way that, if you notice, we've been using the same technique all day. We've been doing the same thing for the bracelet and the necklace. So it's just the technique of using the cord end. So I'm going to close one side, turn over, close the other side, tighten it up a bit, and I always like to give it one last close, a nice tight squeeze to make sure it's in place. And of course you could always test it, and sometimes it does come off, and if that happens you could always just add another one. So before I finish off this earring, I need to add our little charm on, and in 2 more steps this earring will be completed. So the last 2 steps, we will need an earring or air wire, and then we will need another jump ring. So we've been using the same tools all day, we've been using the same components, and you can see the different looks that we were able to achieve using very minimal supplies, minimal tools, and like I said earlier, the sky is the limit. So you're going to open up your jump ring again, and to do this one more time, you're going to pull one side towards you, one side away from you, and we're going to put this together. So I am going to slide this into my jump ring, or onto my jump ring, and then slide the next side onto my jump ring, because I want this to come together to finish off my earring. And because this is already open, I can actually add the last step right now rather than opening and having to close it again. Just slide on your air wire. You're going to go ahead and close your jump ring. I like to go until I hear like a kind of the 2 wires coming together like a little snap, and then I know that I am done. So here is our final earring.
Guys, we do apologize if the focusing takes a second.
And before we go, I am going to just let you have a look at what we created here today. If anyone needs us to go over anything, now is the time to ask. If you have any questions before we wrap up, please let us know. But while you're doing that, here is our earrings. So we had the long ones, we had the ones with the wooden bead, and then we had just a single earrings. So I'll just let her take the camera over, and you can see a final look at what we created today with the earrings. Again, all we used was some wooden beads. We used some crystal beads, some wax cord, and we used the cowrie shell, which you can purchase right here at Shellcraft Supplies. You can get this whole bag, and you can go to town with making your jewelry pieces. So I'll just let you have a look at the earrings again. And thank you, a special thank you to those from the Family Island who are tuning in. And let's have a look at the bracelet we made. See if I can get all of them on. And again, we used a very simple technique of using cord ends to finish off some wax cord. And then the final piece was our necklace. So let's have a look at that. And I think I said we were making a 3-piece jewelry set earlier. We actually made 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We made a 5-piece jewelry set because we actually have 3 different earrings that we can choose from. And of course you can wear them the whole set all together, or you can just wear the earrings by itself, the bracelet by itself. It's up to you. Again, the cords come in different colors, so you can choose whatever color you desire, and the sky is the limits with the creations that you can come up with just this simple technique of using cord ends to finish off wax cord. And again, there are so many different colors they come in. I can picture a design with this goldy yellow for independence, bringing in some aqua. So we have this yellow, this kind of neutral, some pink, this nice natural green, and then a natural, I guess it's called naturally tan. And they are only 50 cents a whole yard you get. You can imagine the amount of necklaces you can make with only 50 cents for a yard. Again, the shells can be purchased here. They have a variety of crystal beads, so if you want to change your design up, if you want to make the exact design that I made, the materials are here exactly for that. Here are the wooden beads. Again, I picked these right off of the shelf and designed them from what's right here in the store. The components and the findings that you need to create your necklace is also right here. And the tools that you need are also here. There are various tool sets that you can purchase. Those who are asking about the bead boards, they have one a little fancier than what I have here. It's a silicone mat and it keeps everything in place. So if there are no further questions, I would like to thank each of you for joining us today. Hopefully you would have gained much from the class, and I hope to see your creations. Hopefully, if you do make any of these pieces, you can post them on their Facebook page and we can see what you have come up with. Thank you for joining us today. Those who didn't catch my introduction, my name is Vanessa Turnquest, and it was a pleasure teaching you today how to make this beautiful wax cord set with a very simple, easy technique. And I look forward to seeing your posts on the Facebook page of the creations you come up with. So thanks for joining us, and we wish everyone a very, very pleasant afternoon.
Please look out for your names. You may be our giveaway winner for today. So you will be getting a set of these. Thank you guys for joining in. Please share the live and like the page if you haven't already. Thank you again, Ms. Turnquest.
No problem, and I wait to see your creations. Bye, everyone.